Hey everybody, it's GVGcast time, episode 34 to be exact.
Hey everybody,
I'm your
it's
host for today,
GVGcast
Ash
time.
Paulson, and I'm joined by my good friends and GVG co-founders, Steve Bowling and John Cartwright, as well as our incredible art director, Daniel Alba. How's it going, guys? Happy holiday weekend. You too,
I'm
John.
sorry for the twerky. That was my choice.
Now
Never.
I have to live with twerky in my lexicon from now on. Thanks, John.
Never be sorry for the twerky. I actually didn't recognize it. I had to ask you. I'm like, what is this ridiculous turkey model from?
This guy hasn't played Metopia, the critically acclaimed 3DS.
Unfortunately not. I played a little bit of it, but I guess not enough to get to the twerky, which I regret everything now.
The game's fine up until that point, then you hit the twerky, and you go, oh man, this needs to be remade for Switch. And they did it.
Yeah. Man, Not Rod in our YouTube chat is just getting us started really, getting spicy really quickly, saying, guys, please help. I committed insider trading at Square Enix, and I hear the police chopper closing in. Oh, man. So, yeah, I wasn't here last week to talk about this with you guys, but oh my, that whole Yuji Naka thing is wild, huh?
It's both wild and not surprising.
It's so, I guess so. It's so weird, but I do still love that title, man. I could not have come up with a better title. That unrelated to Balan Wonderworld was perfect to add that in there. Yeah. But well, I know you are an honorary American for today, John. I know it's not technically Thanksgiving weekend for you or Indigenous Peoples Day weekend for you, but you are still an honorary American in our hearts right now. So
apologize
happy
for that.
holiday weekend. Apologies.
Yeah, I was about to
apologies.
say,
Thoughts and prayers.
that's like a savage insult.
I know,
at this
right?
point.
I know. But yeah, how's everyone's holiday weekend going?
Excellent. I did nothing.
Nice.
I went really hard. I planned all day to do nothing, and I executed on doing nothing. And I feel very accomplished.
Very nice. Nothing is a great thing to be able to do. I still have not quite been able to fully relax into the weekend yet, but I'm getting there. And I should be able to take the rest of today pretty easy, I think. So I did at least get to have a nice Thanksgiving dinner. I don't want to call it dinner because it was like 2 p.m. With my wife's family yesterday, and then we're going to go see my family next week. So
never understood that because you're far from the only person that does Thanksgiving at an absurdly early hour. Like, why does everyone?
Yeah, see,
why is it called dinner anymore?
I don't see my family. We actually do proper dinner. Like we'll do it like at 8 p.m. or something. Like we like to eat a little later. But my wife's family, they eat much earlier in the day, and so we were eating at like 2 p.m. It's not my preference, but that's just the way some people do it.
That's the way I've always known it to be, and I think it's because like a lot of grandparents maybe are involved, but still, like I hope that when I'm like 70 or hopefully 80, if I survive that long, that I'm not having dinner at 2 p.m. I'd be like, just don't feed me at that point. I don't deserve
it. Right. So I'm looking forward to taking it easy throughout the rest of the weekend. Hopefully, getting a little more time in with Pokemon, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I had to set that aside for a while to focus on Sonic Frontiers, which I know you are dying to talk about, Steve, just as much as I am. But before we get into all that, we do, of course, have a sponsor for today's show, and that is, as always, the incredible The Game Orb. The Game Orb is a YouTube channel that brings commentary and gameplay footage from the Nintendo Switch and Xbox Series X gaming systems. While games like Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu can be seen on the channel, along with others, the Game Orb will also now be adding Splatoon 3, Super Mario Sunshine, and Fall Guys to the gaming collection. So be sure to subscribe to the Game Orb at the link in the description, and if one of you fine folks could paste that link also, or pin that link into chat, that would be great. And we'll go ahead and get going. But so what has everyone been playing recently? Sonic Frontiers, I know for sure.
It's been all Pokemon.
Yeah, Pokemon.
You go ahead, Dan. You play more. Yeah, I played a little bit, but not enough to really say much. So, Daniel, take it away.
I've completed everything in Pokemon except for the Pokedex at this point. So, right now, we're just I spent a lot of time with that this past week. It's been it's an interesting topic. I feel like this and Sonic are super interesting as far as releasing in the same week, but the amount of technical issues that both games have, what we're willing to tolerate, and what we consider to be fun. There's a super interesting conversation to be had just about that alone. But yeah, I've been playing those two games. Last week was Sonic, this week was Pokemon. But all in all, probably one of the best Pokemon games to be made, but the worst Pokemon game to be made So
Yeah.
it's pretty much been that topic for the last week, hasn't it? So many hilarious glitches and funny things to be found, just looming over Twitter. One that I made as well, which shouldn't have got as much attention as it did. It's just so ridiculous. But it's the formula itself is really interesting. I think it's one of the best ways that they've handled doing this. Although there's still some things about it, like it doesn't scale. You still kind of are funneled to go into certain areas at certain points.
Right, which is weird for an open game. Like it's still kind of linear, but it gives the illusion that it's not.
Yeah, it's so close to what I feel like it can be in the next generation, but there's still a lot of little minor things that just hold it back, and I just want it to be something everyone could be excited for. The conversation is just about glitches and such more so than the game itself, and that's a shame.
Yeah, I think there's just a very quiet, probably a majority, not a minority. I think there's a very quiet subsection of the fan base that are just sort of enjoying it and not really. Like, I think everyone knows it doesn't perform very well, but I don't think everyone's angry about it. Like, my fiance Roxy's been playing through it a lot more than I have. And I was sort of showing her a lot of the glitches that have been going on, and she hasn't experienced anything like that, so it didn't phase her at all. She's just kind of been enjoying it. Which isn't to say that it's not a mess, technically. It absolutely is.
Right.
But I think, it's fun despite that, though.
I have only played about 5 minutes of it, and in that 5 minutes, the camera got screwed up, and I'm like, "Oh man, we're in for a ride, aren't we?" But despite that, I am looking forward to playing more of it. And I can certainly overlook technical issues to a degree. I mean, I certainly did with Sonic Frontiers for the pop-in, and I still had a great time with that game despite its problems. And I think the same will probably hold true with Pokemon as I play more and more of it. I've heard really good things. People seem to really like the game itself, despite the technical issues. So I really am. I'm going to try to set aside some time this weekend to play a little bit more of Violet, even though the lure of Xenoblade 3 is strong. I think I'm actually coming close to the end of the endless list of side quests in Chapter 6. I think I'm almost there.
Wow.
So I'm really trying hard not to be pulled into it because I should play Pokemon so I can talk about more of it. But so I will be dedicating some time this weekend to playing Pokemon and just, getting more of a better idea of the game itself, despite all the technical issues. But yeah, other than that, I wrapped up getting the platinum in Sonic Frontiers yesterday, which I don't usually go for platinums, but
you
this
went
is easy.
for leveling up speed and rings? That takes forever, man.
I just did that while I was on my phone scrolling through Twitter. I was just like, whatever.
I got every other trophy. I was like, I'm not getting those. I'm not wasting my time like this.
Right.
I only got max speed. I don't want to get through.
It takes forever.
Yeah, I would just doom scrolling through Twitter while I was doing that. But I really quite enjoyed the game despite its obvious problems. And I kind of found myself not wanting it to end. Honestly, it was kind of weird like that. But actually, Michael McCaw put it perfectly. Michael McCaw man.exe, love that name, in our live audience chat said, "Went straight from Sonic Frontiers to Pokemon Scarlet over this month, and I seriously don't think I've ever loved a string of 7 out of 10 games more than these." And that's kind of how I don't know if I'm sure I've loved other 7 out of 10 games more than Sonic Frontiers, but it is the definition of a 7 out of 10 game that I really enjoyed, despite its jank and its issues. And it's funny.
I
know, right? Exactly. And it's funny. I mentioned this on Twitter, and I'm not going to spoil anything here. No spoilers, of course, but it's so obvious exactly where and when Sonic Team ran out of dev time. And I so wish we had gotten to see the full scope of their ambition for this game, because it's so obvious that they had to cut things off sooner than they meant to. And I really wish we'd gotten the game they fully wanted to make. Alas, maybe the follow-up will be that. We'll see. But Steve, sorry, I cut you off, man.
You're killing me here.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
But no, first thing I want to say is I've also, like everyone else on the panel, played Sonic Frontiers and Pokemon Violet in my case. And I definitely that experience of playing both of those games literally within the same day has made a complete hypocrite out of me, because I cannot get past the issues with Sonic Frontiers, but I can totally overlook what's going on in Pokemon. I'm enjoying the hell out of that game. Like I've played a ton of it. I haven't gotten quite as far as Daniel, but I'm pretty close. And I'm just having a really good time with it. There is a lot of technical jank and crap going on, and I have experienced a number of like hilarious glitches in my own playthrough. For me, the most common thing is that for some reason, Miraidon will go into like the falling animation if I make a jump, and he'll just
Uh-huh.
stay in that and then
Oh
eventually
no.
push through the ground. And
That's
like I'm
happened.
dead.
Through the ground.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
happened.
Like
Jeez.
I jump off something and he stays in like the vertical state and I'm riding him into the ground and I can't move and I'm stuck there for like 2 minutes and then the game just acts like I died. So
Oh man.
like I'm back at a
good.
Pokemon Center and they're like, everyone's ready to go. And I was like, we were fine. We were just running around. But despite that, I'm having a lot of fun with the game. I'm playing it primarily in handheld mode, so I guess the frame rate stuff isn't bothering me as much. But
Okay.
with Sonic Frontiers, and I'm going to point out, like at a very late point in the game, I had to collect memory tokens, and I hate that they just randomly push you into that. And I usually will go and check how many I have to get. And this was like the last set of memory tokens I had to get before I got to fight the final boss. And it was like, you have to collect 85 tokens to progress the story. I had 5 of the 6 Chaos Emeralds I needed. And I need to find 85 of these damn things on the island. I was like suffering through it. I was like, I just want to beat the game.
You know you can just buy them from
That's-
Big, right?
The point where you just
I
went
know,
fishing.
but I felt like that was cheating. So I
Right.
had to go
Yeah,
find
I was
them.
never in a position where I needed to get tokens.
Me
'Cause,
neither.
Right.
I guess I did all the story stuff last and just did a lot of exploring to begin with.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
So then at the
Yeah.
end, it's like, oh, talk to Amy, talk to Amy, talk to Amy, talk to Amy. But I never like actually did any of that stuff until I
Yeah.
had to, I guess. Yeah.
I think
Interesting.
what's funny is like it sounds like your
I was-
experience with the game was so different, Steve, because I was kind of like John, where I was having so much fun just exploring the open zone areas, like the islands,
See,
and finding out how to get each memory token on the map and just having fun moving through the world, that I actually got every memory token like icon on the map just because I wanted to.
Yeah.
I was just
I
having
can't
fun.
stand finding the memory tokens.
That's
I
so
think to me it's
funny.
the weakest part of the game, except for
so
the final
interesting.
boss. But
Oh, that's a whole other thing, which we are going to do a spoiler discussion about Sonic
Yeah.
Frontiers next
Yeah.
week. I
yeah, I'm
think,
not going to
so
mention it here, but I'm just going to say, like, I
that final
came
boss
away,
thing.
I rolled the credits, and I was like, I don't want to play this anymore at all. Like,
Mhm.
I'm glad I finished it. I think the story of the game was great, like the
Mhm.
best Sonic story ever.
Mhm.
But it was wrapped around like a game where I liked parts of it, but not enough
Sure.
of it.
A quick question: did you have the difficulty set to hard when you fought the final boss?
I did not.
Okay,
you
I
haven't done the
highly
actual
final boss.
recommend.
Yeah.
I highly recommend you go back and just set the difficulty to hard and
Yeah.
experience what you experience, and that's all I'll
It-
say. But for those of you who
Yeah.
are not aware, the final boss does change if you have the game set to hard difficulty.
There's a
Rel-
point where like you definitely know that there's meant to be something else there. And if you're playing on normal, there just isn't.
It
So
just
it's just
skips.
very anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, if you're talking about the secret final boss, then yes, I've experienced that.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah. So
Oh.
you played on hard mode then, yeah?
I went back and figured out how to get this. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, yeah.
I thought you meant the boss before the final boss.
Oh,
I
gotcha,
don't
okay.
want to go too far into it because I don't want to
Yeah,
spoil
yeah.
anything for anyone. But yes, I played that and
Yeah.
nah, because
That's all
I
we'll
got
say for now.
I will say that it was obvious enough to me that there was something missing that I
Yeah.
Googled to find out what it was and
Yeah.
how to do it. And
I
then I
see.
played that. So
Okay.
yes, I did do that part. And I still feel there was something else that should have been there that very
Definitely.
clearly wasn't, that was foreshadowed even and just wasn't delivered on.
Mhm. Well, that's as much as we'll go into it for now because we don't want to spoil anybody who hasn't
Right.
finished it. But look forward to our spoiler discussion next week, I believe. With that said, though, we
Yeah.
do have some super chats piling up. Sorry, Daniel, go ahead.
Just saying. Speaking of, before we get off Sonic and Pokemon entirely, we're going to be doing some kind of spoiler discussion as well for Pokemon as well. Brandon and I have
Yes.
played enough of that we've been able to do that. We might have a guest on. We'll see what's going to happen. But as far as that is concerned, there's a lot to talk about. I didn't even mention anything about the story. I won't spoil it, of course, but the last chapter of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet it's crazy. It doesn't sound like a Pokemon game that you're used to. And I feel like if the game just dove into that more in whatever comes after, it could have a really strong impact. And I just want to see that fleshed out even more. But yeah, there'll be more of that discussion later on. But
Nice.
yeah, there's great things there. I just want to see that be expound upon in the future.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, we do have the super chats piling up, so I'm going to go ahead and read out a few of these. First, of course, is our good friend Jaden Buck with $5. Thank you. Crazy Question Fridays, crazy question number 60. How are there already been 60 of these? Wow. Have you ever had a Thanksgiving dinner where there were no leftovers? No. I can't
Yes.
say I have. You have? Okay.
My brother can eat like
Okay.
a lot, and I've seen it like. I mean, we got to the point one year where we were bored, and so we started just mixing random things. Like my brother will eat anything for any amount of money. So one year, like, he had managed to kill the turkey like by himself, and we grabbed like the last dregs of everything that was left. It was disgusting. It was like mashed potatoes and cranberry sauce and a little bit of gravy and a piece of turkey and some stuffing, and we blended it all together in a cup. And we bet him like $5 he couldn't keep it down, and he did.
That's
it
amazing.
was horrendous
God.
to watch. But yeah, my brother has in the past like polished off everything that's on the table, and I don't know how he does it because he's not a huge guy. He
I
just
certainly
puts it
couldn't.
somewhere.
Yeah.
If I've never had a Thanksgiving dinner, have I technically not had any leftovers?
I think
guess.
that counts.
I think that
Yeah.
I
counts.
believe so.
Yeah.
Should I be American for this episode, by the way? Because I feel like that's the like
Yeah,
Mario.
if you want.
I would love.
Pokemon.
I want to hear your American accent.
Pokemon.
Absolute Pokemon. Oh
Yeehaw.
Pokemon.
I still want to hear. I want to hear John say "yeehaw" at my. Well, I won't hear it, but I want him to say it at my funeral, just to know that it happened.
You want to hear
It'll
him?
bring
at your
you-
funeral?
it'll bring you
I
back
would
to
love
life.
hear
But-
everybody at my funeral.
It'll summon you back to life again.
Yeah, but Derek actually said, "Screw that! I want to hear it at my wedding." So maybe if we all go to Derek's wedding, we can hear John say "yeehaw" there.
There we go.
It's gotta be done.
Yeah,
gotta be good.
exactly. Next up is Stacy UK with £5. Thank you very much. Rest in peace, Jason David Frank. Thank you for everything you gave us. You will be missed. Hope everyone at GVG had a great Thanksgiving. And yes, rest in peace indeed. That was the most heartbreaking thing to read about. And it really underscores the importance of mental health, well-being, and it's just heartbreaking. So yes, rest in peace indeed. Next up is Alan Wilkinson with £5. Thank you very much. Liven up a Thanksgiving twerky by shooting an arrow exactly where you think I mean. Wow. Talk about a tonal shift from the last super chat to this one. Wow. That's not a visual I care to stick around with for very long. Thank you. Thank you for that, Alan.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is $5 from Dion. I'm sorry, Hun? Dion Hun? I'm sorry if I got that wrong, but thank you, Dion. What do you guys think about the Game Awards nominees? I wish Kirby was nominated for more awards. What games do you guys think got snubbed out? I completely agree with you. Kirby deserved more than just the token best family game nomination. I wish it got more. Soundtrack certainly should have been up there for Kirby. But beyond that, I'm just happy Xenoblade made it. I really didn't think Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was going to get... I thought it was going to get snubbed, and it didn't. So that was nice.
Mhm.
Would have been nice to see Live Alive at least get nominated for Best RPG. Not necessarily Game of the Year, but yeah, that's really what the two that I'm thinking of. What about you guys?
Yeah, I was thinking Live Alive as well. Yeah, it's not really a Game of the Year candidate, but
No.
it's something that deserves more recognition than it's getting. I think it got nominated for the music category, right? Because if it didn't,
it did. It should
I
have.
was gonna say if it didn't, that's an injustice. But I think
believe
it did. Yeah.
Oh,
So
I'm
okay.
sorry. I'm mistaken. It was nominated for Best RPG of the Year. Live
Oh,
Alive was. So
well, there you
Live
go. No
Alive didn't
snubs.
get snubbed. Yeah. But Best Music, let's see. Best Score in Music. No, Live Alive is not there. It should be.
Xenoblade.
It's not there.
Xenoblade is
There you go.
there.
There's your snub.
Yeah.
There's your snub.
Fortunately, Xenoblade
What?
Chronicles 3 is there, which should win. But
What's
Live Alive-
the cutoff date for nominations?
I think God of War is like the last one.
I think so.
I think.
When did God of War come out?
Like a week ago, 2 weeks
2
ago.
weeks ago? It came out like the day after Sonic.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where I was headed with this. I actually think for me the snub that I would mention is that Sonic Frontiers didn't get nominated for Best Music.
Yeah, that's
I
definitely
don't love the
sad.
Sonic. I don't love the Supersonic music, but the rest of it I think is amazing. And so I'm a little disappointed to not see it there.
Completely
Yeah.
agree. The cyberspace music in Sonic
Yep.
is so
So
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do wish Sonic Frontiers had made it, but it also doesn't seem like unfortunately, like the kind of soundtrack that would get recognized. at the Game Awards. It
Yeah.
should be, but
See, and that's the funny
alas.
thing. Like, I agree with you in that respect, but I think that it's weird because to me, when I think of video game music, I think of stuff that sounds more like Sonic Frontiers than I do
Sure.
these other games.
hmm Fair enough. Well, I just hope of these, I really hope Xenoblade wins. Personally, and not that the other four aren't deserving, but Xenoblade Chronicles 3 soundtrack is just mind-blowingly good. So we'll see what happens. But we will be doing a reaction stream to that as always. It'll be a lot of fun.
And we'll be drinking.
Tons of world premieres. Yeah,
Oh,
taking
yeah.
a drink of
World
beer every
premiere
world
counter
premiere.
will be back, baby.
Yes. All right, one more super chat for now, and then we'll go ahead and move on for a little bit. Super Dank Awesome Unicorn Guy with $4.99. Thank you. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet have more technical issues than an early episode of Today's News Tonight. You guys have come such a long way.
God damn.
Ouch.
Jeez.
Well,
That's
thank you, but
brutal.
also ouch. But
Don't
yes,
worry, I got this.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you very much, Super Dank Awesome Unicorn Guy, who I actually just like calling you S-Dog because it sounds cool and it's a lot shorter to say. Thank you. All right, so we do have a little bit of it was kind of a slow news week, but we do have some little bit of news to talk about. First off, I mean, you saw it right in the title of the episode. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are Nintendo's fastest selling games of all time. No number of technical problems in the universe can keep these games or this series down. And according to Nintendo, these games have sold 10 million units in 3 days, and that's combined physical and digital. 3 days, 10 million units. That is
I mean, we're part
good.
of the problem.
We are.
I,
we are.
We all got it.
Yeah.
Look at how
I
many
hate to
copies
say it,
Steve
but
got.
like, yeah, I got 3 copies. So I got one for myself and one for each of my daughters, which, to be fair, is probably the best Pokemon experience I've ever had because they're playing it and the multiplayer lets them jump in and catch Pokemon with me. I'm having a lot of fun sharing the game with my kids. But I literally don't know of a person outside of like our gaming circle who has given 2 shits about the technical problems. Like, I know many people that own it that aren't avid gamers who, like, I haven't even mentioned it to them and it doesn't come up in conversation to me at all. Like, they're not like, oh, this game runs like trash. My kids don't care that it runs poorly. Like, it's just, you know, to them, they're just playing a game. And I think about that a lot because we mentioned, I want to say a couple weeks ago, that it runs like a PS2 game. Or maybe I said that like on a couple weeks ago. And I was like, you know what? Like, it does feel like something that a couple generations ago wouldn't have been as wildly egregious as it is today.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I think. Oh, go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, I keep seeing the sentiment that because it's sold so much that there's no reason to change. But I kind of feel like this has changed pretty radically already. Like, it's become an open world game. It's heavily multiplayer. Like, you can actually play co-op now. Like, every other game in the series has basically just been battling and trading and doing, you know, raid battles together. But now you can properly explore the world. Like, I think that is a radical change. It's definitely not technically improved, but regardless of sales success, I think they are doing something. They're not just sitting there raking in the success and not adapting. They definitely have changed with this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a big part of why it's selling as well as it has. I think people, you know, I know personally, like up to the pre-release hype, I was most excited about the fact that, you know, it did seem some very big core changes came to the series and that they delivered on, even if it's not like the most polished way of delivering on them. And I think a lot of people at least gleaned that from like Nintendo's pre-release marketing about it. And I think that definitely contributed to why it is selling as well as it is.
Yeah, agreed. And I think it is kind of easy for us to forget sometimes that we are in a bubble in terms of, you know, really caring about and paying as much attention to the technical issues as we do. As you were saying, Steve, the vast majority of people, everyone else you know, they don't care. They're just playing a game that they're having fun with, and they couldn't care less about the technical issues. And so I think it's kind of important to remind ourselves every once in a while that we are in kind of a bubble in terms of people who do pay attention to that kind of stuff and criticize that type of thing over and above and beyond it just being a fun game to play. And you know, personally though, I kind of find that, I mean, yes, I would prefer Scarlet and Violet to have great performance and look great, obviously, but there's also something fun about, you know, a game that does and it is marked with those kinds of issues because you don't. I mean, again, in the first 5 minutes, the camera locked up literally in the trainer's starting home at your house. The camera locked up in the first 5 minutes. I haven't even gone outside yet, and the camera
man,
already
that's
screwed
not
up.
good.
And so, but I just chuckled, right? I mean, I'm still having a good time, or at least I was, and I'm sure I'll go on to enjoy the game as I play it. But you just have to chuckle at some point, right?
We should bring attention to this stuff, though. We're not saying like, oh,
Right.
it doesn't matter. It's still fun. It definitely should be resolved, and hopefully, there's been a lot of criticism. Nintendo can't be happy because what Nintendo's seeing right now is the Switch can't handle this, and that's the sort of comment going out there. Oh, Switch can't handle Pokemon, but Switch has been doing like Breath of the Wild, and it runs The Witcher, it runs Dragon Quest. Like, of course, Switch can handle it.
Oh yeah,
It's almost insulting to the hardware.
Did you guys see Digital Foundry's technical review of Scarlet and Violet?
I've seen about half of it. Yeah,
it is scathing.
Yeah.
It is one of the I didn't know that they could go that hard on any one game, but they compare it to Breath of the Wild very unfavorably multiple times, and I was it's true that the game just. The Switch hardware could easily handle this game.
Easily.
Oh yeah,
it's just a very poorly optimized game, and I don't like to lay blame at the feet of the developers, but I think there's enough empirical evidence to suggest that this is an issue on Game Freak's side and not a hardware limitation.
Yeah, I am so sick of that take, and I said this on Twitter too, and I don't know where it comes from, but that take that we really need a Switch Pro. I mean, yeah, I'd love a 4K enabled Switch, sure, but the Switch's hardware is being aged has nothing to do with Pokemon running the way it does. Look at the kinds of games the Switch has been able to push out. It's so frustrating to hear that take.
I will say this though, and it's not particularly like a helpful thing to say, but whatever. I do think we've seen a spate of recent releases that have underperformed on the Switch that shouldn't have. Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope had some performance issues. I'm struggling to remember them all, but I know several games out there that have released recently have come out with kind of aberrant performance issues.
Bayonetta 3.
Yeah, Bayo 3, right. That's the other one I was thinking of. Thank you. And we heard a year ago that developers were working with, upgraded Switch dev kits, DLSS enabled Switch dev kits. And I firmly believe that, I mean, if Ubisoft had them, if these other developers, we heard something like 10 or 15 developers came forward and said that they had 4K Switch dev kits and they kind of went away. And so if I had to guess, I would say a lot of these games were targeting that newer, better hardware. And at the 11th hour, Nintendo shelved plans for whatever that device was. And so they had to then re-optimize for weaker hardware and kind of, draw in the scope of their games a little bit. If I had to guess, Game Freak probably fell prey to that as well. And they were probably targeting much higher performance on better hardware, and then suddenly realize like, oh crap, we have to fully optimize this for the Switch, which is not a good practice. It should run at an acceptable frame rate on every hardware that you ship for. I would have thought Cyberpunk would have taught developers to kind of be more wary of that, but here we are. I think this game would have run much better on whatever that product was that ultimately never came to market, but it's unfortunate that came at the cost of developers queuing the game properly for what we all have in our homes already.
Yeah, I can buy that for something like an enthusiast game like Bayonetta. But with Pokemon, there's like 114 million standard Switches out there, right? You'd think, even if there is more powerful hardware, that they would be developing at the weakest one at a base. Yeah. That's where all the kids are. That's where all the families are.
I would think so too.
Yeah, you would think so. And what's also interesting too is Cutie Caitlin reminds us that we actually did have a couple of well-performing releases on the Switch recently in Persona 5 Royal and Nier Automata.
Which, Nier was nuts.
Yeah, like the fact that Nier looks... I saw the Digital Foundry review of that, and the fact that Nier looks and runs as well as it does on the Switch is really impressive. So you can't blame the Switch, as old as its hardware is, you can't blame that hardware for Pokemon. You just can't.
For sure. Yeah. I'm laying it more at the feet of development practices, and it's kind of fun to play like devil's advocate, what if. But at the end of the day, this is something that hopefully Game Freak can and does patch, because You know,
I wonder if they
it should be
will.
something they can fix.
I don't know if they.
This is
Yeah, I think it just needs
I
a
feel
whole
like they
new engine
won't.
at this rate.
This is something they've been fighting for a long time now because
Yeah.
if you play the game for long enough, you see that there's definitely moments of there's love and care put into this game by developers, but there's just not enough time to execute that because it needs to follow this Pokemon cycle of the new seasons coming out, the Pokemon cards, the merchandise, everything needs to follow a certain schedule. And so when the game has that schedule set way early on, and they can't keep with that, they have to cut corners everywhere, and that shows more and more with each generation. But even then, games like Legends Arceus, I think it performed some things even better than it did than what you see in Scarlet and Violet, and now you're taking some steps backward for the sake of development, and that's hard to see. Like they tease little bits of even voice acting in Legends Arceus, and I think even just something like that
Right.
would bump up the presentation of this game much more. And this is the Pokemon company; they have the resources to do so, but the way they cut corners here, it just makes them look bad in the long run, and thus Nintendo looks bad, and then no one's happy.
It's the same issues we've had for years now. Like when we first saw the wild area, everyone just like they focused on the trees, the textures, all of
Yeah.
that stuff.
Oh man, yeah.
Legends Arceus, same thing. There were pretty poor textures there that got like people call it like an N64 game at times. And instead of trying to really rectify those issues, they just broadened the scope because the wild area was one little area.
Yeah.
Legends
Mhm.
Arceus was segmented like Monster Hunter sort of areas, and then Scarlet and Violet, full on blown open world. So instead of actually resolving any of this stuff, they've just broadened the scope.
Right.
Mhm.
And it really has come at a cost to the visuals in Scarlet and Violet as well, because some of what I really found interesting about the Digital Foundry review is the side by side comparisons of Arceus's textures and environments to some of what you see in Scarlet and Violet, and it looks so much worse. And
Yep.
it's like, oh man, like yeah, like there's definitely something going on with Game Freak and a lack of optimization. And I as much as I'd love for them to patch the game, as we said earlier, we are part of the problem. They know they don't need to because it sold 10 million copies in 3 days despite all this. So
Yeah.
why should they patch it? As much
They're
as I'd
already
like them
working on
to.
the next game. They're busy.
This makes me scared for what they're going to do with the eventual Black and White remake because they're not.
Oh.
You
If it's not
see
HD 2D, I don't want it. It's got to be
I
HD 2D.
know.
freaking Gold and Hard Gold, Soul Silver are like some of my favorite games in Pokemon series ever, and they're very well received even today. And I can't imagine putting some kind of effort like that into a Black and White remake because like Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire was fine, and then you have Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, which was the most Pokemon game you've ever played. And now I'm afraid with the Black and White because people love Gen 5. It's very highly regarded as well amongst fans, it's a fan favorite. So if they don't treat it to at least a base level that people are expecting, I'm afraid what the reception is going to be on that.
Right. With
Yeah.
Black and White, I think you've either got to go loyal to the original art style, like HD 2D, or you go like the Legends route, where you basically do a sequel and like make it full 3D, redefine a lot of it rather than really remaking it. Because if they do a Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl remake, I don't want it. I wouldn't buy that.
Yeah.
HD 2D would be incredible because
That would be so good.
the ways the sprites animate in battle, they bounce around, they move, they actually feel alive for sprite work, and seeing that in HD 2D would just make it pop in a way that we haven't seen in that kind of art style before with HD 2D.
That is exactly what I want from a Gen 5 remake. That's exactly what I think we will not get, but it's what I would
Yeah.
want for sure.
Yeah.
And whatever they do though, I hope they treat it with care just because I love Black and White so much. It's one of my favorite generations. And I want them to do it right. Gen 4, I personally was not ever a big fan of Gen 4, so I didn't feel like I personally had as much invested in how the remakes turned out, but Gen 5 is close to my heart. So hopefully they do it right. Anything else we wanted to talk about on the Pokemon front before we move on?
It's unrelated, but it's related to the next news piece. I
All
found
right.
it very funny how the one we're about to talk about went first, and then like the day later, Pokemon Company came out and were like, "We got 10 million."
Yeah. Which is why, yeah, that is wild. But yeah, speaking of that, John, moving on to a game that does not have optimization issues on the Switch, quite the opposite, in fact. We have a release date and all the tracks for Wave 3 of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe's DLC, the Course Booster Pass. And man, this looks so good. For me, this is basically the pack that has Mario Kart 7 Rainbow Road and 7 other tracks. But Yeah, so we've got Rainbow Road from Mario Kart 7, Maple Treeway, Boo Lake from Super Circuit, Berlin Byways, Rock Mountain, Peach Gardens, London Loop, and Merry Mountain, which is one of the original tracks that's going to come to Mario Kart Tour after this DLC. And so they're all coming out December 7th, so they're keeping to the release timeline of having all these out by the end of next year. And I don't know about you guys, but this might be the wave I'm most excited about so far. And I've been pretty excited for the first two.
Filled with bangers, yeah.
Oh,
There's a lot of
strong.
tour stuff I've never played in here, actually.
Really?
Never
I've
played Berlin
yeah.
Byways, never played
Oh,
London
of
Loop,
course,
never
the tour
played Merry
stuff. Yeah.
Mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I've
I don't
come
think
to
any.
I've
go
come
ahead,
to
Dave.
really like anticipate the tour courses at this point because they're really like some of them are some of the more interesting tracks that we've seen. Just because for a lot of us that don't play the mobile game, they're just new tracks altogether. But they've been a lot of them have been really nice up to this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes, we've been playing them.
the tour tracks may as well be new tracks to me as well, and because I didn't play much of Mario Kart Tour, I couldn't stand it. I hear it's gotten better, but I really could not stand playing it. But yeah, I agree. Like in the Wave 2, Sydney Sprint ended up being maybe my favorite track of Wave 2, or at least one of them. It's such a fun track, and I would say in general, most of the Mario Kart Tour tracks based on real world locations have been pretty damn fun.
Yeah.
Not all of them are amazing, but I think by and large they're pretty great. And Sydney was one of the best. And as you said, John, I have not played. I have not played any of the tour tracks in this wave either, and they might as well be new to me as well. I can't wait.
Yeah, and some of my favorite all-time Mario Kart tracks are here. Maple Treeway,
Yeah.
Rainbow Road 3D,
Oh,
3DS. Like that's my favorite Rainbow Road.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that one too. And then even there's some ones that we kind of forgot about, like Peach Gardens from the DS. I actually really like
Yeah,
that
I like
I
stage.
that one.
love
Yeah.
that track.
That was
Hell
really good.
yes. Give me more Mario Kart DS love. DS is still my favorite Mario Kart. Peach Gardens, I love that track. Steve, you have been conspicuously silent, my friend.
So
you have
being computerless, for those of you that don't know, my computer exploded, so it's gone, and I haven't had much access to seeing things that have been happening outside of Twitter or Hive if you're on there. And so I'm just now looking at the screenshots. I knew about Wave 3, but I hadn't seen any of the screenshots that Nintendo published. I haven't seen the trailer either. So I've been kind of absorbing them while you guys have been talking. I've always been a big fan of Maple Treeway, and it looks like it got a really nice remaster for this.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see
I'll
it.
wait for the music.
I heard it was
too.
also in Tour, but I didn't play Tour. I really dislike Mario Kart Tour. But I agree with Daniel that like when the tour tracks come, I'm really excited to check those out. I like the idea of Mario racing in real world locations. And London Loop looks really nice. Like I do think they kind of vary wildly in quality. Like some of them are really boring, just single loops, where some of them have more interesting mechanics incorporated. So I'll be interested to see how London Loop shakes out. But yeah, Peach Gardens was one of my favorites. I'm not familiar with Merry Mountain though. Is that new?
That's a tour
That's
a new
one,
one.
I think.
That's a
Yeah.
new one.
Oh, that's a tour. Okay.
Well, I think that's kind of like the.
Oh, you're right. Course from Mario Kart Tour. I'm reading the description as I.
Well, I think that might be like the ice cream track from Wave 2, where it actually debuts in the DLC and then comes to Mario Kart Tour. I think. I could be wrong
The
about
way they
that.
phrase it, it sounds like it's already in Tour.
Oh, maybe it is. Okay, because I
Because it
think
says hit the
yeah.
half pipe and bank up the snowy hills of this charmingly festive course from Mario Kart Tour.
Interesting. Okay, 'cause if I remember correctly, the ice cream track did not. Sky High Sunday, that was not in Tour before it released in the DLC.
It's
Yeah,
weird
some of
'cause
them get backported.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the selection screen it says where they're from, and a lot of them say like mobile tour, but then I think that one doesn't. It's just sort of like a
Just has
blank
nothing.
original.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it's funny when
Yeah.
some of these tracks have different regional names. So Rock Mountain, I was like, what the heck's that? That's
Oh.
Alpine Pass.
That's a
that's a much nicer
much
name.
better name. Same thing
Rock
with
Mountain.
The music
same
part.
thing happened with Music Park. Melody Motorway is such a
Yeah.
better name. That's so much better. Yeah, you guys have the better track names for sure. When they do
Yeah.
differ.
That being said, I
and-
do love the idea of a holiday themed track because this is a game
too.
that I perennially bust out, like, when I have gatherings around the holidays, because it's one that everybody can play. You don't need to really be all that skilled to pick up Mario Kart. So it'll be nice to have this, especially when I'm visiting my family for the holidays.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And
That offline reminds us that Ninja Hideaway didn't have the tour label either. Right.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
Oh god,
yeah.
Ninja Hideaway is still my favorite DLC track of all of them so far.
It's
Yeah, I
so
really
good.
like that.
Our good friend Top Dog says in our live audience chat, Wave 3 is definitely my favorite wave so far, but I'm still holding out hope for Koopa Cape. And I hear you. I love Koopa Cape. I'm
Yeah.
holding out hope for that. And I'm still waiting for Airship Fortress. Do not disappoint me on this, Nintendo. Please. Please bring me DS Airship Fortress. It is still my favorite Mario Kart track of all time. And I was so confident that it was going to be one of the tracks in the DLC. But now that we're halfway through and it's not here yet, I'm starting to worry. So I really hope we get it.
I'm a little surprised they haven't just gone all in and published every single. Like people would buy them if you did
Easily.
this Rock Band style and just published every single course from every Mario Kart game.
Totally.
I mean, there's no doubt that people would buy them all.
You're totally
Yeah.
right. And like I feel the same way about something like Smash, where they could continue to make money off of it if they wanted to, just by releasing music packs or costume packs. Whatever. Like people would buy them. I'm part of the problem. I would buy every single music and costume pack they released, even if they weren't doing characters anymore. They could still make, incredible amounts of money off of Smash, just like you said, Steve, with Mario Kart 2. Every track, people would buy them. I certainly would, but I don't know. Maybe I'm sure they also have to, think forward a little bit, think ahead to what the hell are they going to do with Mario Kart 9, right? So Mario Kart 8 can't live forever. It's already lived.
They've only had
Nintendo-
like 2 console generations, haven't they? Like what are we
Yeah.
doing? They haven't got any ideas.
Yeah.
I feel like Mario Kart is gonna the eventual sequel to this game is gonna have such high expectations
Oh,
placed
yeah.
on it that it'll
Yeah.
almost certainly not deliver on.
Yeah, exactly. But so this all comes out December 7th. We're dedicating a whole executive producer hangout to the game, which will be a lot of fun. So that's we're looking forward to cashing in on all that Wave 3
early
hype.
birthday
and then,
gift to me.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Alba Day.
And they did it for you, Daniel. They were like, "Oh, it's Daniel
It's
Alba's
Daniel's
birthday
birthday?
coming. We have to do it." Yeah.
Miyamoto just smacked his head. Daniel's birthday!
We're going to give
Exactly.
him 3DS Rainbow Road for his birthday, and then he's going to just deal with whatever else we give him, which I'm perfectly fine with.
Yeah. All right. Well, it is basically a slate of Nintendo-related news today, because the one last thing we wanted to talk about very quickly is, of course, Sakurai, and a little tease he did earlier this week about a potential port of Kid Icarus Uprising to the Switch. And please, yes.
Oh my goodness.
I could not have said it better myself, Steve. Please.
This was in the episode he did about difficulty. So he was
Yeah.
talking about how games can sort of make like gamble difficulty, like how Smash does it and how Kid Icarus does it. And he just turns to the camera and he says, like, I wish someone could port this game. And then just sort of smiles.
He just gives
and
that
looks for
smile.
it.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
And just
killing
like,
me.
what do you know, sir? Please,
just wanna
what do
shake him.
you and your cat know that we don't know?
And the thing is, and I saw this mentioned on Twitter, and I can't agree more, is that this would open up that game to so much larger of an audience, because the 3DS control scheme for that game is awful. Like, it is the one thing, it held me back from playing it. I bought it, I own it, and I tried to play it, but my hand would cramp so much trying to play the game as a left-handed person. I know you don't have that problem, Ash, but for me, it was literally physically painful to try to play it.
Sure.
And I
Ash
just
played with buttons, didn't you? Like,
Yeah,
you
I
used the
actually did button controls.
ABXY button.
And not that it was an elegant solution by any stretch of the imagination, but I was able to play with button controls and still had a great time, just because everything else about that game is so stellar.
The thing that infuriates me is that they released the Circle Pad Pro for the 3DS, and it would have been perfect for this.
I
They're like,
know.
why? Why didn't you just patch it? But if it comes to Switch, it almost certainly is going to get a dual analog control scheme, and that to me would that would be worth the price of purchase alone. Never mind the fact that it'll almost certainly have upgraded visuals and probably some other quality of life enhancements to make it even better. Because I don't disagree that it's a good game. I just I'm not going to literally suffer to play it.
Sure, no, I totally get it.
It's one of my favorite games ever made. I think it's probably my favorite handheld game. And all it needs is gyro. I just give it like Splatoon style gyro, and then that's it. That works fine.
No, I'm
Yeah,
right there
yeah.
with you, John. It is one of my favorite games of all time, one of my favorite handheld games of all time. It might be my favorite 3DS game ever. Really, the only thing that
I
comes
agree.
close for me is Bravely Second, so I go
Mhm.
back and forth between those two. But Kid Icarus Uprising is just one of the best games I've ever played. And Daniel, you were about to say something?
Kid Icarus Uprising is the best anime I've ever played on any
Nice.
console or generation.
Yep. Yep.
But this also opens up the idea of opening up multiplayer again to people, and so they can experience that kind of very unique multiplayer that you can only get with Kid Icarus Uprising. But
Yeah.
yeah, having that on Switch, oh my gosh, it'd be fantastic. And yeah,
Yeah.
just having just the as you guys already mentioned, dual stick accessibility, option to use gyro if you want to, like especially for the on rails sections where you're flying. Just so many different possibilities that were unfortunately limited by Sakurai's vision, very grandiose vision for this game on a console that unfortunately was too small to handle it. And I still have my little cradle for when you play to try and reduce your hand pain. But yeah,
I love that you mentioned multiplayer, Daniel, because that always gets glossed over, but it is legit. It is one of my favorite multiplayer games ever. It was like Nintendo's third-person shooter before Splatoon, and in many ways, it is more competitive. It is more strategic. It is an incredible multiplayer game. And if it gets ported to Switch, I think people will embrace that even further. But yeah, don't look over the multiplayer stuff. It's so good.
I think we might need to end this episode early because I think that sound I hear is the throngs of Splatoon fans coming for your head, John.
I mean, Splatoon's amazing. I'm not going to hate on
saying
Splatoon, but Kid Icarus is one of Nintendo's better multiplayer games.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say John has the credentials to back up any claims about Splatoon.
Very true.
Firsthand.
No, very true. Very true. Yeah, no, I was never particularly good at Kid Icarus Uprising's multiplayer, but I still enjoyed it. It was definitely very much its own thing, and as you said, John, surprisingly competitive and strategic. And yeah, I would love to see that make a return in a potential Switch port as well. I just hope it's happening. I hope it's happening. There was that rumor that came out several months ago now that Bandai Namco are working on some sort of port or some sort of third party or first party port for Nintendo. Obviously, we all speculated at the time, maybe it's Kid Icarus. Hopefully it is. Maybe that's what this is. Maybe they are actually doing it. I hope so. Nothing would make me happier.
Would it be this team that did Smash? Because I guess
Good
they're
question.
they're close to Sakurai. Maybe they have some of the same tools.
Yeah, I can't see why it wouldn't be them.
That makes sense.
Really.
I'm sure Sora would reach out to that, so I wouldn't be surprised if they are the same team working on this this stuff. Yeah.
I think really the only thing that could make me as happy or happier than a Kid Icarus Uprising port is a Rhythm Heaven announcement on Switch. That's really the only thing that could make me that Nintendo could announce that would make me as happy. And that's probably not happening. So it's kind of a sad state we live in when a Kid Icarus port is actually more likely than a Rhythm Heaven announcement. That's really sad when I think of it like that. Ouch, that's depressing. Well, what's not depressing? Super chats. Let's read a few more out, then we'll move on to our patron topics for the week. First up is Black Ninja with $10. Thank you very much. I've been playing Sonic, Pokemon, and finally Last of Us for the first time. Black Friday has been killing it. Got PS4 games and Switch games. Hope you all are doing well. Well, thank you very much, Black Ninja. We are doing well, and I'm glad you are in gaming paradise right now. Yeah. You're playing a lot of great games.
Wow, yeah.
Heck of a lineup.
Next up is Disney Duncan with $5. Thank you, Duncan. GVG, a minor criticism. Amazing games like three houses is that it's 100 hours long if you want to experience all routes. Does it bother you? So basically you're asking, do we consider it a criticism that amazing games can be as long as 100 hours if you want to experience everything they have to offer? And yes, absolutely. Just as an adult with less free gaming time than I've ever had in my life, I appreciate when a game can last 20, 10, 30, 40 hours and give me an incredible experience and not one that I have to play for 100 plus hours. But as I say that, I'm also playing Xenoblade Chronicles 3, although I do wish that game was a bit shorter too. So I completely agree. What about you guys?
I don't know if I hold it as a criticism, but I definitely do avoid some games if they're too long. Like if I'm not in the mood to commit to something, I'll put it off. But I don't think I've ever played a game and thought, well, I guess maybe there are some games that I play and think this is too long. But in terms of optional content, not seeing everything, I don't think I hold it as a criticism as such.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess
Ye-
criticism might be a bit hard. Go ahead, Steve.
I was gonna say I agree with John. I don't have the time to play games like that. And Fire Emblem Three Houses was my favorite game that came out that year. I loved it, and I played through one route, and I started a second one, and just didn't have the time to finish it. But I didn't knock that as something against the game. That was just something, a reality of the fact that I didn't have the time to, if I had that 100 hours, I easily would have done it. I loved
Right.
that game. Um, so I wouldn't say it's inherently a bad thing, because not everybody's situation is the same as my own. Some people do
Right.
have that 100 hours. More people than don't, really, when you think about it. So,
Yeah.
and when I look at, the value in terms of like a game costs $60, how much does that equate to in terms of how much enjoyment you're getting for that? Like, I think that it's hard to argue against that as a selling point. Like, hey, you can, if you want to, spend hundreds of hours with this game for that same $60 that I got 30 hours out. So I wouldn't criticize the game for that. I would just say,
Yeah.
hey, probably not for me.
Depends how it spends your time too. Like games can definitely waste your time. Like
Right.
if those 100 hours aren't all great, then I'll prefer for it to be shorter. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of along the lines of what I was thinking. Like, yeah, criticism is too strong a word. I would say games that are 100 plus hours long that earn that length are great. And if you have the time to play them, awesome, like Fire Emblem Three Houses. And the length isn't inherently a criticism. But there are games out there that don't earn that kind of length and just drag on and waste your time, in which case I would say, yes, the length is a criticism. Daniel, any thoughts on this, man?
Yeah, there's definitely games where I've enjoyed the length that they've given me, like Persona. Persona's a big one where, especially with Persona 5 Royal, it's like the longest Persona game ever made, and it can easily go into 100 hours. But mentioning Fire Emblem, yeah, one of the times in which I felt this the hardest was when I played Fire Emblem Birthright, and then I played Fire Emblem Conquest, and then I played Fire Emblem Revelations. All in sequential order. If you look at my,
Jeez.
I want to look at my 3DS backlog and see how many hours I put into that. Because it's probably on the top, just because I got the special edition that had all three in one cartridge, and I'm just like, oh god, I don't know if I could ever do this ever again. And then they made Three Houses, and I've done the thing with Three Houses is that there's actually very stark differences between the three different routes, and I've done all of them except for the Golden Deer, and then they did this again with Three Hopes, in which we have to. Well, not have to, but you get most of the lore and the story if you do multiple routes. And I've only done 1.5 at this point for
Right.
just for Three Hopes. And it makes me really happy that it looks like Engage is not going to have that. It's just going to be one streamlined story all the way through. Hopefully, they better not pull anything out at the last
We'll
second.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I love.
I definitely
Sorry, go
appreciate
ahead, Daniel.
Oh no, I just definitely appreciate shorter length games at this point now. But
Yeah.
it has to be something special
Depends
for
on
me
the
to
mood,
commit.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love Hazaboz's £5 super chat. It's not a question, it's an accusation. With Derek choosing Fennekin, Poplio,
Yeah.
Scorbunny, and Spirigito as his starters, are we sure he's not a closet furry? Could be.
I mean, he's not here to answer that question himself. I will say, though, I also chose Finnegan and Poplio, and I almost chose Sprigatito. So I don't know if that makes me a closet furry. As far as I know, I'm not one. But Derek and I would have to convene on that. I don't know, but
I just need Basola to like kick in your door wearing a fursuit right now just to
Yeah.
see what happens. For
Exactly.
science.
for science.
I will say, and I have to say this because I was a Fuecoco stan all the way through, but now that I've seen the full evolutions for all of them, I'm firmly in the Sprigatito camp, and I regret my choices.
Really?
That's so funny. I'm in the same boat, except I moved from Team Sprigatito to Team Quaxley after seeing the evolutions. So I
Quaxley's
was
a douchebag. I can't.
I was all but
Wow.
Quaquaval is so or Quaquaval
I'm
is
just
so
kidding. I don't know.
fancy.
I actually don't know what Quaxley evolves into, but because
Oh,
I picked Fuecoco,
It's pretty
my
fabulous.
my rival picked Sprigatito, and I've seen all the evolutions for it now, and I'm like, damn it.
right.
I have a thing for bipedal Pokemon. That's like I don't really love what
Well, then
Fuecoco turns
you're gonna
into.
love.
So that sounds like something a furry would say.
Hey, listen, man, I didn't say I'm not.
Well, Steve, I
For-
just posted a picture of Quaquaval in our crew chat, man. You got to.
All right, let me see. I gotta look this up. Let's hope my computer can
For-
handle this.
Oh, that's true, right?
For me, it's I chose Quaxley, but I think I enjoy the concept and execution of Fuecoco's final evolution the most.
Really?
So it's funny how
Okay.
we're all in different, like we all
I don't
apparently
like
chose a different.
Quaxley's final at all.
No, I love it. It's so fancy.
It's he's very animated when you see him in battle.
Oh, is he?
It's
Okay,
pretty
maybe
fantastic.
in motion he'd be a bit better.
He's
I
always
probably delete that
dancing.
from crew so Derek doesn't see it, by the way, because he's still playing
Oh,
through
yeah,
the
yeah,
whole
Oh, I
thing.
maybe
didn't
not.
realize. Okay, let's go ahead and
Yeah.
delete it. Yeah, my bad.
But,
I've been powering
delete
through that
that.
game. I'm probably gonna beat it tonight.
Wow. Okay.
I'm excited. Well, my kids won't put it down. They will not stop. They're playing it right now, and they started playing it at like I think 9 this morning. Like they have taken very few breaks. I'm like, it's Thanksgiving break. Play as much as you want because that's what I'm gonna do. And my oldest is like 4 gyms deep already. Like she's probably gonna pull ahead of me while we're doing the show.
Oh wow.
we've got
Yeah,
mountains of super chats, by the way, so we should probably plow
We
through
do.
some of
Yeah,
these.
We
yeah.
do.
Sorry.
Yeah. No worries. Let me
Don't get me
on my way
started.
back. All right. So next we've got Rufflemut with $4.99. I love that name, Rufflemut.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's so good. Since the games are going to focus more on the IDW Sonic books, I thought I would finally give them a read. 2 volumes in, and I'm surprised how grim it is. I have heard that exact same take about the IDW Sonic comics, and I really want to read them. I've heard great things about them. Yeah. Next is Leftox Fluxington with $5. Thank you, Leftox. Y'all deserve this money just for having Twerky in the thumbnail. Keep up the good vibes, even over the holidays. Well, thank you, Leftox. I love your name as well. And yes, that is all John. Well done, man. Twerky should definitely. That was the right way to go for the thumbnail.
I'm glad I could introduce you to Twerky, Ash.
Yeah, and I'm glad you did. In fact, I want to buy you a beer, and related to the next super chat, a drink to the past. Love that name. $2. Thank you, a drink to the past. Everybody guess John's favorite beer.
I don't know if you could guess, because it's
Oh.
it's not like a local one, but I don't think it's sold in America.
Yeah, I don't
So-
know.
I have no idea.
I think I've had all of one beer with John in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
think
and it
so.
was definitely an American beer that I had with him.
I mean,
so
Ash and
I
I
was-
had some recently.
Yeah. But
We didn't
yeah,
get your
Ash,
favorite,
come,
though.
come
We didn't get
through
your
for us
favorite.
here, man.
I was just gonna throw out a guess like Guinness or something, but
Not much of a
I'm
Guinness
guessing
guy.
not a Guinness guy. Okay.
That's bread. Guinness is a meal
So-
in a glass.
My favorite is one that my dad got me into when and it's one. It's from a brewery called Bateman's, and I like one at the moment they're doing. It's called Rosy Nosy, which is a Christmas beer, but it's really good. My favorite of them though is Triple XB, but they don't sell it anywhere apart from where it's brewed, really. So like, isn't it like the north of England where I'm not? So I don't get those very often. But Rosy Nosy's in a lot of southern supermarkets right now. So that's my go-to one.
Wait,
I love that
triple
name.
XB.
Triple XB.
Interesting.
There's some sort of inappropriate joke to be made there. I'm just not quite sure exactly what it is, but it's there. I'd love to try it someday, though. I owe you
Is it-
if you can get it when I'm there. I owe you a beer for that thumbnail, man.
You said
Okay.
it's Bateman's, right?
Yeah.
I found where I can buy it.
You
Well,
can get
there
it
you go.
in,
I'm
in
gonna
the
buy
States.
some.
Oh.
I can import it. I'm really
Okay.
good at finding stuff like this because my best friend Nick, he usually buys his wife like a bottle of fancy booze as like a holiday gift, and I've always helped him source them. So I have a lot of places to look.
Yeah.
Uh,
Really quick to answer your question in YouTube chat, Moawe. Yes, I would happily accept a port of one of the older Rhythm Heavens in the absence of a new game. Port Megamix, please.
yeah,
Yes.
Please.
Yeah, it's a great
All
one.
right. Next is Soulcaster with $5 Canadian. Thank you. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet sales numbers shouldn't be a shock. It feels like a cyberpunk situation. Shall see the results of this in the next game. Yeah, I mean, we basically kind of covered how we are in a bubble in terms of how much we specifically care about things like performance issues. But yes, the vast majority of people are just playing a game they like, and totally agree with you.
I disagree with it being a cyberpunk situation because I think for whatever reason the public perception of Pokemon is far better than
True,
Cyberpunk's was.
That's definitely
Cyberpunk
fair.
also fixed
Nintendo
itself.
Nintendo is not apologizing. There aren't refunds happening en masse for the game. It hasn't been pulled down from the eShop. Like it is. Performance wise, I understand the comparison, but in terms of the
Yeah.
actual vibe around the game itself, it's
Perception.
nowhere even close culturally.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, with a good anime, Cyberpunk, I think, has got most of its goodwill back. I think
It's true.
Yep.
if that franchise were to keep going on, I don't think they would have lost any of their customers, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. Next up is Disney Duncan is back with $5 more. Thank you.
Oh,
If we can't get native Kingdom Hearts ports for Switch, maybe a PS5 and Series X/S remastered collection. I don't know that we really need any more remasters. I mean, all the Kingdom Hearts games have already been remastered, essentially.
With the art style being what it is, I don't know how much
Yeah,
you'd be able to extract from those games at this point.
exactly. I kind of feel like the existing remasters of all the older Kingdom Hearts games are perfectly fine the way they are. I don't know that we need a remaster of remaster. And I say this as like one of the biggest Kingdom Hearts fans in the universe. I just don't think it's necessary personally. But thank you,
Yeah.
Duncan.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Next up is RC with $5. Thank you. First live GVG cast I get to catch. Appreciate what everyone does helping push through my work shift, so have some Black Friday money. Well, thank you very much, RC, and we're happy to
Thank
do
you.
whatever we can to help push you through your work shifts. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. And hang in there with Black Friday. It's got to be incredibly tough for you right now, so hang in there. Next is Vedron with $5. Thank you, Vedron. Fire Emblem Engage is my most anticipated Nintendo game in a long time. The game looks phenomenal. Daniel, thoughts?
As far as how it looks, like the animations of this game are incredible. Like you go back to watch anything from Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, which is still like those games are like my favorite games in the Fire Emblem series, Path of Radiance, Radiant Dawn. The animations are so stiff and solid, and here they're so colorful. It's like every attack is like you're summoning Shiva from Final Fantasy, and it's crazy how much more animated everybody is. It just looks so beautiful. The animated cutscenes you see all the way back in Awakening, like that's what we're getting here as the actual game. And Awakening and Fates, they started to go backwards with Shadows of Valentia because you could see how they stutter in their animations, and they kind of have that sort of same thing going on with Three Houses. But seeing how beautiful this looks, I'm so excited. I'm really excited for this one. I'm going to be doing a lot with this one when it comes out.
I really hope I get to play Engage because I unfortunately kind of missed Three Houses just because it's such a long game and I just don't
It's
know.
not though.
Well, if you play all 3 routes, it's like over.
Well,
100
if you play
hours.
all 3, yeah. But
Yeah.
I would strongly encourage you. I think you can extract a ton of enjoyment out of
Really?
just one route.
Just one route. Okay.
You don't have to
Right.
do all.
It was my
3.
game of the year, and I played one route. Like I believe that Three Houses is so good that it's like even if you're not into the genre or into the series, it's like a must play for anyone who has a Switch. You should
That's what
buy
I've
it
heard.
and you should play it.
That's what I've heard from basically everybody. I just kind of thought that it was just a bigger time sink than I had time for. But if you say I can just play one route,
I did a route. I want to say in 25-ish hours, like one route.
Okay, that's nothing. All right.
Yeah, you can definitely get a lot of the context. You don't need all the context for all the routes to enjoy the game for what it is, but just one of them is still plenty to glean a lot of what you need to know. And the gameplay is the same in each route anyway. It's not like they're super different or anything. But yeah, definitely worth at least one route shot.
Well, then after Xenoblade and I guess Pokemon, maybe that's my next port of call then. I guess we'll see. Crisis Core next month though too, so I don't know.
No.
Too many games, too little time.
At least Crisis Core is pretty short.
It is a short game.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to playing through Crisis Core. I mentioned it on TNT back in the day, but my save file got corrupted right at the end of the game, so I've never finished it.
The ending is so good, and that's all I will say about that. That's all I will say about that. But you're in for a treat, man. You really are. Next up is Rec BCQ with $5. Thank you, Rec. I chose Fuecoco, and I love its final evolution. I love all of them, to be honest, though. My favorite starter trio since Sinnoh. It's definitely one of the better. Well, I think one of the better sets of starters.
It's strong,
design-wise, and I would say this generation in general is. Yeah, Gen 9 just has some particularly strong designs, I think. Wow, Disney Duncan is back again with $10 more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh man, top 3 games of the year. Mine are, not in any order, Horizon Forbidden West, Xenoblade 3, and Ragnarok. Honorable mentions are Three Hopes, dedicated to Billy Kametz, one of his last games before his passing. Right.
Yeah.
This is somewhat of a spoiler because we are going to be doing a video of each of us.
Yeah, that's true.
We can shout out a couple, just as a joint venture.
I will tell you that in my top 3 somewhere is Horizon 2. I'll just put that out there.
I'll say that too. Horizon Forbidden West is somewhere in my top 3 as well. Yeah.
Somewhere in there, I think a lot of us will have Xenoblade Chronicles 3. That's definitely in mine for sure.
Yeah. John, any teases on your end, man?
I don't know to contribute here. I can be very boring and say Elden Ring.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like a really out there one, but
did you finish Elden Ring? I was just wondering that the other day. Me too.
I finished it in like 4 days.
Oh wow. It took me a
Nice.
lot longer than 4 days.
Spoiler, I think Sonic Frontiers is going to be Steve's surprise #1
Yeah.
game of the year.
Yeah,
He's never
obviously.
changed his thoughts.
Yeah. All right. One more super chat for now, then we'll move on to our patron topics. Gantorus with $5. Thank you. Do you have any games/genres that you don't like, but you find yourself buying anyway? I keep buying ports of shooters from the 90s because nostalgia. Not personally, not really. I basically only buy games that I know I want to play. Yeah, I don't really buy games that are not in genres I enjoy just because. What about you guys?
Um, it's a good question. I've definitely bought games that I haven't played.
Sure, I have done that. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe that's because of the genre sometimes. Like I want to be more into visual novels than I am, but I don't always have the time for them. So picture
Sure.
like Digimon Survive. I want to play that someday, but I've not got around to it. So perhaps the genre puts it off, even if I want to like it. I just don't have the time investment to really get into it. But I wouldn't say I've ever like disliked a genre and then kept buying games in it and then not really playing them.
Yeah,
That's
I have the
that's
same
tough.
kind of situation with visual novels. Like this year, I was getting into Eye of the Somnium Files, and then I still have to play the sequel that came out this year as well. Yeah, that's a hard one.
I feel the same way about visual novels. I love the Ace Attorney games, but I've always wanted to parlay my love for Ace Attorney into getting into more visual novels and other styles of visual novels. But because I know Ace Attorney isn't strictly a visual novel, but I just find that when I try to sit down and play one, I just never seem to really be in the mood, even though I want to be in a weird way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that I have a genre that I've written off. Like, I don't think it's possible for me to just write off a genre, though. I would say there are series that I buy within genres that I don't typically like seek out. Like, I'll buy lots of fighting games just because I like fighting games. But for instance, I'm not a big like tactical RPG person, but I buy every Fire Emblem game and I play it.
There you go.
Or Final Fantasy Tactics. I love those games,
Oh,
but I
hell yeah.
don't consider myself a big fan of the genre as a whole. But I'd also say that there's not any genre that I would just say like, oh, I don't play those and not look at them. John mentioned visual novels. I loved Famicom Detective Club. I thought
Yeah.
those were great games.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say
Yeah.
that I don't really. I kind of try to keep an open mind to every genre.
Sure. Alrighty. Well, there are a couple more super chats. I will read those out at the end of the show. But for now, it is time to discuss our patron suggested topics. And in case you're not aware, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/GVGaming. And every week, all of our patrons at the producer tier and above get to suggest topics for us to discuss on each week's show. So that's what we're going to do right now. And Steve, why don't you get us started, man?
Sure. So my Patreon topic comes from Dr. Ryan, who writes, if you could take over any one game developing company, who would it be and what would be your first order of business? And I'm going to go with the easy one, and I'm going to say Nintendo. I would take over Nintendo. And my first order of business would be to dramatically ramp up their M&A activity. And if you're not in the business sector, that is mergers and acquisitions. So I'd go full Microsoft with Nintendo if I could.
Okay.
And the reason being, you might remember that John published a video about how Nintendo develops their franchises internally. And there is actually a startlingly low number of internal teams that build the games we love, which is why so many series that we all want back don't have a chance, like F-Zero. So, I would purchase Grezzo. I would purchase a lot of Nintendo, the companies that we almost view as second party, but really aren't. And integrate them wholly within Nintendo and assign them to some of these franchises that haven't gotten love in a long time. Like, why do we still not have Wind Waker and Twilight Princess on the Switch? Like, Grezzo could have banged that out in a few months.
Right. Even Tantalus, they did Twilight Princess HD and Skyward
Tantalus.
Sword HD. But they're fully independent, so a good feel they're independent. Next Level only just got bought, and that's because they had to be bought.
Yep. Nintendo does not like to buy companies that almost exclusively work on first-party remakes and re-releases. So I would love to see those studios brought in-house, and actually, put them to use, like working on original games. But yeah, that would be that for me was an easy one.
Gotcha.
I've got another really easy one, and that's Sega, because Sega sit on a mountain of IP, and it feels like it's not even just Sonic that we get nowadays. It's mostly Yakuza that we're getting.
Yeah.
Like Sonic's, they've been taking a long time to make their games lately. We've had a few re-releases like Origins and a few spin-offs like Team Sonic Racing, but it's been like Forces 2017, Frontiers 2022. We don't know when the next game's going to be. What I would do is just sort of spread out the love. Maybe also look for other third-party teams like Nintendo does to make some of these games. Because right now, what Sega does is Sonic, Puyo Puyo, Yakuza, and that's kind of their mainstays right now. We don't have, all the other ones. Like we don't have. When was the last Shining Force? We had like Shining Dragon something in like 2017, I want to say. But there's so many that get left aside, and I would love to see them, finally given some love.
I mean, Streets of Rage 4 might actually be my favorite beat 'em up of all time, and I would love to see other Sega franchises get the Streets of Rage 4 treatment, right? Like, that is how you bring back a legacy series and modernize it, and there are so many IPs that could do that with.
I want to see Square Enix do a turn-based Phantasy Star 5. Like, I would really like to see Phantasy Star get picked back up again as an RPG.
But you want Square Enix to do it?
Well, Sega's not going to do it.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
he's talking like third parties doing Sega.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
gotcha.
Sega seems content to have Phantasy Star be an online MMO series now, but I would love to see the traditional RPG series that started it come back in some form. I think Square Enix could do it justice.
I think so. God, I mean, there's so many Sega IPs I want to see revived in that Streets of Rage 4 way. Outrun. Give me a new Outrun game.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Give me a new Outrun game. Give me a new Jet Set Radio, Skies of Arcadia. Oh, man.
Taxi, yeah.
Oh, they're sitting on so many.
Who would even do an Outrun? Like, who is making... Like, who currently would we trust to make an arcade racer of that quality?
Sumo Digital did Outrun too,
that's
didn't
true.
They?
Yeah, Sumo.
That's true. God, I keep forgetting about them. But yeah, that would be amazing.
And I would say the name escapes me at the moment, but the developer for Horizon Chase Turbo, I think, could probably really do Outrun justice if they were given the chance. I can't remember their name.
That's
but
a pretty good
game.
Great.
Yeah. Mine's going to be an easy one as well. Capcom. Just so I can make them make more Mega Man games, honestly. I mean, it's been 20 years almost since X8. I'm still waiting on X9. So yes, I would take over Capcom. I would make Mega Man X9.
Cancel Resident Evil, cancel Monster Hunter,
cancel
Street Fighter.
Mega Man only. But no, what I would want Capcom to do if I were to take it over is do much what they're doing, much of what Sega's doing with Sonic in Sonic Frontiers. Not in terms of the gameplay necessarily, but doubling down on the lore and caring about that again and reestablishing that continuity and putting the spotlight back on the characters that we all care about so much. And I want to hire a Mega Man lore master. Sega's hiring a Sonic lore master. I want Capcom to do the same for Mega Man and double down on that.
She's just begging for a job over here.
Basically, yeah, I'm here. But that's what I would. I mean, I know it's an easy answer, and not just Mega Man. Okami. I want Okami 3 or 2, depending on whether you consider Okami Den 2 or not. But I want a modern 4K Okami console game, like a sequel. And so that's what I would do. I would take over Capcom and force them to make Mega Man X9.
I haven't heard Capcom versus SNK 3 yet, and I'm getting upset.
Capcom versus SNK 3. I'm in Rival Schools 3. I'm in for that too. There's so much that I would have Capcom do if I were to take them over. And so that's my pretty easy answer. What about you, Daniel?
I think for a while mine would have probably been Atlas, because there's a lot of for the longest time, obviously everybody knows the whole deal with Persona 5 not coming to Switch, Persona 4, Persona 3 being away from their console exclusive with their exclusivity with Sony. But now that's been alleviated to some degree. But I still would enjoy to hear or to see a revitalization of some sort for Persona 1, Persona 2, Eternal Punishment, and Innocent Sin. Those three games are still woefully not talked about within the grand scheme because of how different they are from traditional Persona games now. That's its own thing. But if I could actually take over one, it'd be Bandai Namco, and then specifically the Namco Tales of Studio, because that studio, it's made me more sad as I see games like Tales of Symphonia get a remaster, and it's not the kind of remaster that people are hoping for. It's just a port that's been like AI upscaled, and it's not the kind of remaster that people are hoping for. It's just a port that's been like AI upscaled, and it's not the kind of remaster that people are hoping for. It's just a port that's been like AI upscaled, and it's not the kind of remaster that people are hoping for. It's just a port that's been like AI upscaled, and it's not the kind of remaster that people are hoping for. just everything's been sharpened up, and it doesn't really look
Sharp
like
and
or
Furious,
feel.
right.
It does not feel like a remaster. But there's so many other games as well from the series that hasn't either been ported over to other consoles or just hasn't been translated over here to overseas. There's some that have happened, like Tales of Hearts was not even dubbed in English. It was just translated in Japanese, which even that I will take that even. But there's also some consoles that only have that Tales game on it, like Tales of Graces, Tales of Exilia 1 and 2. Those are only on the PS3. A lot of games that you can just easily port elsewhere that I wish they would do that for, and just remasters that could be properly done. There's a lot of stuff you could do with that series, but we're slowly getting somewhere, I guess. So yeah, and the DS games as well, Tales of the Tempest, Tales of Innocence there's a lot in that series that could be expounded upon.
Sure. Bonus answer, Bandai Namco, just so I can force them to make a new freaking Ridge Racer already. Come on. Where's Ridge Racer 8? Come on.
I'm not for sure you were going to say something about Smash.
Oh, no. Ridge Racer. No, Smash is in a good place right now. I just want a new Ridge Racer. I've wanted it for so long.
Was the last one the 3DS Ridge Racer?
It was either that or, well, in terms of like the last true Ridge Racer, it was either that or Ridge Racer 7. But then, since then, there was like Ridge Racer Unbounded or something.
Right.
It was kind of like Burnout, I think. It was like a mobile. Yeah. There was like a mobile game in there too, and it was not Ridge. Yeah, not the Ridge Racer I wanted. No. All right, Daniel, why don't you take us to our next patron topic, man?
Oh goodness, I've been so wound up on here that I haven't exactly decided which one to pick. I think you were doing. Worries. I think you chose that very topical one for the season. I think. Yes, if you want to go ahead and go on with that one, we can go ahead and choose that.
Sure, I'll go ahead and do mine then right now, then we'll come back to you. Mine, of course, is topical. It's from DGC. It's a very, and thank you for this, DGC. It's a very straightforward question. Turkey or ham? And for me, I got to go ham. I love them both, but you have to, if I have to pick one, it's going to be ham, and specifically those honey-baked hams. That sweet and savory combination. Can't beat it for me. What about you guys?
That's highly dependent on the preparation for me.
Yeah.
I would say like a traditional oven-baked turkey is inferior to ham in my opinion. But if you deep fry a turkey, then it's a lot better.
Fair enough.
I've never deep fried a turkey before.
I haven't either.
That's like, oh my god! So that's a big thing out here because it's very warm during Thanksgiving. Like it's still in the 80s usually. So it's very easy in Arizona to find like these deep fried turkey kits, and they warn you like it's the most American thing ever because they're like you need to completely thaw this turkey because if you don't, the ice in it will make the grease explode and catch your house on fire.
Oh wow.
And it's like slapped with all kinds of warnings that only idiots would need. Like, don't fry a turkey indoors. Like, it's literally like a bucket full of boiling oil that you lower a turkey into. And it's super dangerous, but it's delicious. Like, it comes out.
I've never deep fried a turkey. I guess I'm not American enough, which might be a good thing in this case because I want to live. And I feel like deep frying a turkey just stops your heart potentially.
It really does. You feel everything in your body slow down when you take a bite.
Oh man.
Like the best part is it comes with like a syringe full of like a melted butter concoction that you inject into the turkey.
No.
It's so tasty though. It tastes really good. But yeah, you definitely feel your arteries harden as you eat it.
Oh, God.
Back to the actual question though, I feel like turkey isn't my favorite, but it's kind of nostalgic though. Like you just sort of have these sort of holiday events. Or at least I do. It's like a Christmas thing for me, really. So I think if I had the opportunity, I probably would choose turkey over ham. But I don't know if it's necessarily better than ham though.
That's interesting. So I wonder how y'all like. So in my family, it's always been that on Thanksgiving we would do a turkey, and on Christmas we'd do a ham. And I kind of like appreciate them differently based on different times. Like I agree, John. Like for Christmas, I feel it'd be really weird to have a turkey. Like that would feel out of place to me. But at Thanksgiving, similarly, I would feel really weird if ham was on the table, like as the main thing to eat.
Sure.
Yeah, I would probably say turkey as well, just because of how our families prepared it in the past. But I mean, both are really good. Ham's a very close second. So.
Yeah, I don't think you could go wrong either way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The true answer to this question is yes, all of the above. Either one, they're both great. But yeah, I mean, if I had to choose, it's ham. But yeah, I mean, you can prepare both in so many delicious ways that you can't go wrong, right? So, thank you for that very topical holiday question, DGC.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Daniel, are you ready, or should we go with John next?
Let's see. Let's do the one by Vedron saying, say there's a character combo crossover RPG akin to Mario and Luigi. What characters would start in the game and have movesets built off of each other? I feel like I'm going to steal someone's answer already, but I would probably do something like as simple as Sonic and Tails in an RPG setting.
Hell yeah.
It's like everyone's already like, oh, we'll move on to the next question. But no, that it's just like the fact that they both have abilities that complement each other. There's so much that you can do with that, and they've kind of experimented with RPG settings in certain other games that we won't probably discuss very much. But the potential is definitely there. It's super interesting to think about, like, what could they do in this other setting where it's not all about running, it's not all about platforming. Or it could be part of it even. It's an interesting blend you could do with Sonic and like that kind of RPG setting that I think can definitely have more features looked into. But yeah, what about you guys?
It would also help take the bad taste of Sonic Chronicles away, and just
Yeah,
kind of
That
have a
one.
really good Sonic RPG. It would be nice to have that happen. But I agree, Sonic and Tails is a great one. Mine is super obvious, so I'll let someone else go first.
Oh wow.
I couldn't think of anything after Sonic and Tails, so I was looking at my games. I saw Punch Out. I thought, like, what would a Little Mac and Doc
And Doc-
Lewis
Oh,
game
okay.
be like?
Cool. That's a unique idea. I wouldn't even thought of that.
Doc still got it. I think he can prove
Still
it.
got it.
Yeah.
So I might have misunderstood the assignment here. But I thought they said crossover, like as in between two IPs. Do I have that wrong?
Well, they do
Oh,
use
I-
the word crossover, but they also say akin to Mario and Luigi. So I
Okay,
guess
well, I'm
you
gonna
walk
stick
with-
away.
I think it was
I'm-
like a character combo crossover with an RPG series, like Mario and Luigi. That's
Okay.
kind of how I read it, I guess. If not, then
Man,
let me
I'm
know.
I'm still going with IP crossover because I have two ideas and they're not from the same series. One, I've advocated for this every time the idea of a character crossover has come up on our podcasts in the past, but I still stand the idea of Samus and Star Fox teaming up
Yeah,
in
I love
any
that.
type of game.
Yep.
I think that they have an interesting crossover, but that's not who I was going to choose because I didn't want to be obvious. I'm actually going to say that I would love the idea of a turn-based RPG starring Samus and Mega Man.
Oh, okay.
Team Arm Cannon. I
love
want
it.
I want them
Yeah.
as a combination fucking up Wily and Space Pirates at the same time.
I love it. I'd be super down for that. And okay, I guess I have two answers now to read the question as you did, Steve, or the question as you read it, Daniel. But they're both obvious answers, so I apologize in advance. But kind of akin to what you said, Steve, if we're doing IP crossovers, I've said this a million times, I'll say it again: Sonic and Mega Man. It's already happened in comics. I could totally see it working in a game, even if it's an RPG. I would love to have a Sonic and Mega Man crossover, anything, including an RPG. But if we're talking about characters in the same series like Mario and Luigi having their own game together, it's the most obvious answer in the world for me. But X and Zero, obviously,
Yeah.
like done. They're my favorite duo in anything ever. Just they are such a cool fucking pair of characters, and I would love to have an X and Zero crossover RPG, and it kind of already happened a little bit with Project Cross Zone, but it wasn't only their own game, so. Yeah, I mean, Mega Man X Command Mission isn't the best game, but it proved that a Mega Man X RPG could work, and it was a perfectly fine game. But yeah, doing an X and Zero crossover RPG, their movesets build off one another so well anyway, X being the long-distance buster guy, and then Zero getting close up with the Z-Saber. There's so much cool stuff they could do with that, and I know it's an obvious answer, but it is my answer. So yeah, what about you? Oh no, John, you already answered. Sorry,
Yeah,
my bad.
I think that's all of us.
That's
Yeah.
all of
Yeah,
us.
we
All right.
got through it.
Time
All right.
flies when you're having fun. All right. Well then,
I've
John,
got one question, yeah.
what is
So
it?
this comes from Da Alpha Lion, who says, what games do you think wouldn't be nearly as good or memorable if it weren't for their DLC offerings? This can
Ooh.
include anything from major season passes to expansions, but I'm going to go ahead and make one major exception. No Smash. So,
Yeah.
I think this is a very safe and obvious one, but Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is majorly enhanced by
Mm.
Torna.
Sure. Okay.
Like throughout the story, you get little flashbacks to parts of Torna. You get little like glimpses at the party of that game. But both Mithra as a character and all that lore that it speaks of and everything that came before is enhanced by Torna. And not only that, but Torna is just one of the best parts of Xenoblade. It is short; it's like 20 hours long, but it manages to squeeze in so much quality. It's just a jolly fun time. But yeah, Nintendo definitely had a good year for DLC that time. There was also Donkey Kong Adventure for Mario plus Rabbids, which is also exceptional.
Right.
But
Yeah.
Torna, I gotta say, one of the best DLCs I've ever played, and I think it's essential to Xenoblade 2.
Torn is incredible.
Hmm.
I that's one of my favorite little. Just the length was perfect, especially after a long RPG like Xenoblade Chronicles 2's main campaign. It was such a good story as well, and kind of I enjoy the stories where you kind of know there's not going to be a happy ending. So like, how's this gonna wrap up? It's so good.
I like it when like you know the end's not going to be good, and they just lean into it. They're not afraid of trying to like just make any twists to make it seem like, oh, actually they're going to live. No, they just go straight into it. Like Halo Reach, Torna. I
Mhm.
love Doom stories where you're just doomed to fail, and that's the crutch of it.
This is a hard one. I'm struggling to think of a good answer here. I have one answer that I think is pretty decent, but I didn't actually play the game, so I don't think it really counts. And that would have been Pokemon Sword and Shield. I didn't play Gen 8, but I heard that the DLC really enhanced the overall package a lot, particularly the
Definitely
second
did.
DLC. So, but I didn't play it
Mhm.
myself, so I don't feel like I can use that as my answer. I'm still struggling to think of one.
Pokemon's was good though,
Yeah.
because the wild area was decent, but then it adds two others, which is it's like tripling the selling point of the game pretty much.
Yeah,
hmm,
yeah. I played both of those, and they were definitely that definitely helped push where Pokemon was going next afterwards, and it was integral to even future games, even like Legends Arceus and what we have now.
hmm.
Just exploring that kind of concept. But I guess I mean for me, this game is already perfectly fine without the DLC, but just the fact that it has more and more enhanced it, I probably would say Shovel Knight.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just
that's a
the
really good one.
just the
Yeah,
amount of DLC that kept coming out with it, with
yeah.
Plague of Shadows, Search of Torment, King of Cards. Like, it didn't even need this DLC because it's such a perfect game as it is. But to have these different kinds of play styles to make the game as big as it was, and especially with like Spectre of Torment, which is probably my favorite way to play some of these games like these. It was so cool to see that happen, and it just really showed how much credit Yacht Club Game deserves. That we didn't even really
Yeah.
pay for this DLC. We kind of just got it, and
Incredible that they,
Yeah.
kept it
they're
everything they had
they're
planned to do.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm struggling to think of a game that isn't already good. Like, because as you said, Daniel, like Shovel Knight is already fantastic as it is, but
Hmm.
it's it's just
Well, I
made
mean,
even better with the DLC. So I'm trying to think of a game that wouldn't be nearly as good or
I
memorable.
might have an
And
answer for you. What
okay,
about vanilla Mario Kart 8?
no, I feel like
No?
Vanilla Mario Kart 8 was still really good.
Yeah,
Like,
it was really good, yeah.
yeah, you know what?
I
I
don't
might
think it necessarily has to be a game that was bad and was made
maybe
good
not,
by
maybe not.
DLC. I think that's a pretty
Hmm.
rare scenario.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
that's true. Well, because I do have Sonic on the brain, and I was reminded of this recently.
Uh,
Sonic Lost World
yeah.
had the Yoshi and the
Oh
Zelda
yeah.
DLC. That was really cool, actually. It was
Yeah.
like it was Sonic doing open world before Sonic Frontiers in the Zelda stages case, and they were actually really fun. And the Yoshi stage was like a 2.5D side scroller, like, and that Sonic Lost World by itself wasn't the most memorable game. Like the first half of that game is pretty great, and then it just takes a shit level design wise at about the halfway point. But the DLC was actually really cool and pretty memorable. So
Yeah.
I guess that would be
Download
my
it.
answer.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You've got like 3 months to download it. Go do it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that would
Um,
be my answer.
for me, and I think one of the things I liked, John nailed one of the concepts that I really like in good DLC, in that it changes the base game in a significant way. Um, and so my game is one that I consider to be extremely good, but I think the DLC kind of put it over the top because of how transformative it was and how different it was. And I always shout this out anytime we talk about DLC. Red Dead Redemption and the Undead Nightmare expansion for that.
Okay.
Because it took a Western game and turned it into a complete top to bottom zombie horror survival game. And I thought that was just such an out of left field choice that took an already stellar game and just made it something, while completely different, that was still incredibly engaging. Like, you had to look, you no longer had bullets because the world had gone to hell and nobody was making them. So you literally had to use a musket and load it with body parts to shoot at zombies.
That's pretty great.
Yeah. So
That's pretty great.
yeah, you had to kill zombies to get ammo to kill zombies, which I thought was really cool. And then like all the big game animals in the world were turned into zombies. So instead of hunting a bear, you now had to hunt a zombified bear. And your horses were the horses of the apocalypse. So like you could ride any of the 4 horses of the apocalypse, which I thought was really cool.
Good.
But yeah, it was already a stellar game. It was my favorite game of that generation, and the DLC just kind of put it over the top, like made it even better. So that would be my vote.
Nice. There are 2 very good answers in our live audience patron chat that I want to highlight because I didn't think of these and they're really good. First is Jacomon saying, Seesaw24, Kirby Star Allies. That's a great answer because Star Allies itself was fine, but not particularly memorable. But then all the DLC updates they got, and they were all free too, added all the all these new playable characters, and that was really cool. And then Dat Alpha Line, and you may disagree with this, Steve, but I think it's a good one. Street Fighter V. Like, even if you don't like Street Fighter V in general, it's pretty hard to argue that the state it released in was really sad.
Oh, no, I agree that they dramatically improved the game. I just think it ended up still not being a good game afterwards.
Gotcha. Yeah. And Jacomon, actually, Kingdom Hearts 3, that's a good one. The DLC it got definitely gave it some quality of life updates it really needed, for sure, that we're missing in the vanilla game. So great answers from all 3 of you. Thank you.
There's so many you can talk about. Like,
there's so many.
Even within, like, as far as making a game more memorable, something like even the Octo expansion for Splatoon 2, that made that game a lot more memorable for me. Like, there's so many different ones that are really well done. But yeah,
definitely. Well, that is all of our patron topics for the week. Thank you very much to everyone who submitted questions. And once again, head on over to patreon.com/GVGaming and check out all the tiers we offer. And this specifically is a perk that our producers and Up get each week. So definitely check us out there. Before we wrap up, we do have a few more super chats here. First off, we have Disney Duncan, I believe, again. Wow. Okay.
Wow, again.
Thank you so much, Duncan. Could Kingdom Hearts 3 get a PS5 and Series X/S remaster if the rest doesn't need it? Sure. I wouldn't mind seeing a Kingdom Hearts 3 final mix. I don't know if it needs it, but
I think it could get one. I think it's much more likely we just see like a patch like we've seen for other last gen games where it gets like a
it's already gotten
bump.
that.
Oh, then never mind.
It's already gotten So I don't know that it needs a remaster, but I wouldn't mind personally. But yeah, it did already get like a big DLC update that added like the Yozora fight and a bunch of quality of life updates and stuff. So yeah, but I wouldn't mind. I mean, every other game in the series has a final mix version, so right?
Yeah.
Next up is Jockster. Jockster? I hope I got that right. I'm sorry if I didn't. With €5. Thank you. Hey, GVG crew. Big fan here from Tuscany, Italy. Hope you all have a lovely day. Well, you as well.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's always so humbling to hear from people around the world who care about what we do. Thank you very much. Next is Soulcaster with $5 Canadian. Thank you. That is fair, but was comparing it to people being shocked that it sold so much, even with its current issues. Oh, of course, talking about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Yes, definitely. Thank you, Soulcaster. Vedron is back with $2 more. Thank you. Don't miss out on Tactics Ogre. That came out this month. Yeah, it did, and I've heard really good things about it for the strategy RPG fans out there. Have any of you picked it up?
No, I really need to.
No.
Yeah, there's a lot of games right now.
There's just too much. I know it's too much to play. I love the idea of playing it, but it's just there's so much to play already. Next is Born96 with £4.49. Thank you. Bring back Crazy Taxi in different world cities. Play as a black cab in London or a yellow cab in New York. Also a great OST with it. I love that idea. Crazy Taxi was so good. Thank you, Born. And finally, one more from Disney Duncan. You are so incredibly generous. Thank you. With $5 more. We know Disney likes to buy companies. What do you think they will buy next?
Oh,
A good question. I
Man,
just got back from Disneyland last week. I had a lot of fun.
Mm.
I can't imagine them buying another company though. Like I had heard a lot.
yeah,
I guess they fired their CEO recently and replaced him with the old CEO. And I can tell you that like prices at the parks are absurd. Like
right.
they're insane right now.
They are.
They've
Yeah.
got to
Um,
legally be at risk for monopoly, right? Like, how much can they realistically keep
yeah,
buying?
they already have
Right.
Marvel and Lucasfilm at this point, or Star Wars at least. I mean, I don't know how many more things they can acquire without putting themselves in major jeopardy of the government intervening at this point.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't. I mean, I
the
don't know what. Yeah, their target would even be. Go ahead,
the
Steve.
only thing I can think that they would want to buy would be Sony Pictures, and that won't happen.
Yeah, for Spider-Man.
Sony
That's
would
no
never sell it
way.
off because they would want to get Spider-Man back, like the film
Yeah,
rights specifically. Um, but I think Sony's wise enough not to let that happen, because they've found their way into getting some of that MCU money, and I
yeah,
don't
it's
think they're
too
gonna let
valuable
that
to
go.
them. Yeah,
Yeah. Um, so I don't know. I don't know what would happen there, but I think Disney is probably going to hold off on the acquisitions for a little bit just because of the
Mhm.
when you fire your CEO, that's never a good sign. So that means that there's
Right.
clearly
Yeah.
some distaste with the current direction the company's going. I don't know what that would be because I don't follow Disney closely enough to know,
Hmm.
but it tells me that, whenever you whenever you cut off the head of a company, it means that you're probably the wise move is to sit back and fix whatever the perceived issues are before you go into aggressive acquisitions like that.
Hmm.
mhm,
I can imagine that Disney would probably like to buy Warner Brothers if they could, and they tried
yeah,
a few years ago. It didn't go through, but they probably
Right.
would like to own Warner Brothers. But I can't say I think they will go for that again.
right.
So yeah,
I guess their other competitor would be DreamWorks, but I don't think they would want to buy them.
I don't think
Yeah.
so either. Really.
Probably
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. But well, let me double check that there aren't any more super chats that just came in. Nope, that's it. Well,
We're good.
thank you again, Duncan, for that and all of your other super chats. And that brings us to the end of episode 34 of the GVG cast. Thank you so much for hanging out with us on this three in a row now. We've performed a hat trick with earlier John friendly, UK friendly episodes of the GVG cast, and this has been a lot of fun. So, and I also don't think we've ever had this specific panel for a
Nope.
GVG cast, right?
I don't
Yeah,
I
think
don't think
so.
so.
the
No.
No.
first time. So, yeah, thank you so much. As always, we have to give a very special thank you to all of our patrons, period, but especially all of our patrons at the producer tier for helping to make this show and everything we do happen. Because without you, we would not be doing this, and we love doing this, and we love you all so much. So, thank you. But also, as always, we have to give an extra special thank you to all of our patrons at the executive producer tier and above. And those fine, amazing, wonderful, stupendous folks include Brandon Bovia, Cutie Caitlin, Fangs, Z Patty, Just Brian, Sky Blue Flames, Eastman23, Adam O'Sullivan, Richard Herrera, Logan Daniel, The D-Pad, Vesmio, Waffle King, Critter XD, Kitty Kong Fax, Angel Martinez, Vedron Hotik, Benny Yao, Blindman, Azran127, Black King, Pagrima, Geller, Geeky Griffin, Lucky Wonderfish, Kyle, Wataniac, Top Dog 23100, Young Ben Kenobi, Doug Showmix, Andrew Medeiros, Darchi, Becca, Killamox, Eddie B, Jessica Toad, Michael McCaw, Nope, Matthew Wong, Goron Amber CPHT, Justin Matthews, Too Much Spaghetti, Bane 400, Ascaron 809, Ryaner, Nathan Steele, Spicy Atanda, Raiden Clouds, The Game Orb, Super Gamer Dude 101, Grantles, Ravelox, Rosa Pardo Bowling. Hi, Steve's mom. Mega Amster, Dark Steel 01, Jason Uloa, Jaden Buck, Cystic Warrior 29, DJ Jurassic, Super Dank Awesome Unicorn Guy, Derek, Colin, Mumbling Yeti, Cameron Sharp, Keel, Moon Knight, Brendan Hesse, Noah Fitterer, Calvin Atkinson, Brainchild, the entire state of Wisconsin, Jim Wakeland, Longboy Shiggy, Andy Mine P, Ad, Kyle the Monarch, Dat Alpha Lion, Lord Metarex, Kyle Gamer and Barry Rookie, Jay Brox, Salad Dinner, Blaze Colored, Eric, Turbo, DGC, Cat EV Person 5, Lady Maxillary, Shadow Rider 755, and last but certainly not least, Dr. Ryan. Wow, thank you all so much. It is a genuine privilege to be able to read out that list almost every week. So thank you very much, everybody. Just as a reminder, you can check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/gvgaming, where you can support us for as little as $1 a month. That just gets you into our Discord community, which is the best damn community on the internet, bar none. But right now, we are about to go to our patron-exclusive post-show. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a great holiday weekend, and we'll see you next week. Good night and good vibes. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Till we meet again.
Bye.